So say who you are. No, I just.
We still have seven.
Travis Duryea. Duryea.
Chris Hunter.
So this is
Matt, we just blue screen Windows 7.
Uh-oh. That's not good. You're just trying to laugh it off, like, haha, it's not going to do this again, you better.
Well, the right side, it didn't have anything to do with the project. It was just putting it back in from hibernate.
Oh, that's happened, yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
what's your email address?
That's what I was thinking.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just upstairs trying to connect my computer. I was trying to use my computer for the presentation. I could not get that thing to connect to save my life.
Let's get it. Take care
Can you
of
help
it.
me with it whenever you get up there?
Yeah, no problem. What's happening, dude? Set up for the presentations. All right. Excuse me. Grab me a water bottle. You know what you got you? A +10 modifier? If all the water bottles said Pandem.
Oh. Travis didn't have that much spare time. He did handful all the napkins.
I know. Oh, really? You hand?
Oh, yeah, I saw that this morning. No, really.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, what?
Look at
It's got Marine Corps Toys for Tots on
Oh, okay. You get +10 modifier for me. It's got a marine bear on it.
We're waiting for the computer to start up.
Programmers bottleneck. The computer's too slow.
Yeah, we gotta wait for all this crap to start. We just blue screen. So.
God, the smell of the pizza is ruining me.
Really? Man.
Pizza smells terrible.
It's not one.
I'm just very full from lunch.
Okay.
So it smells terrible because I can't eat anything.
Haven't eaten lunch.
Oh, that was you?
At 11, they were like, "We need you for an interview, a video interview." Like, that's awesome. But what? You like the research?
Oh yeah, your mommy was here. What?
Yeah, this.
It's an earthquake. It's an earthquake. Earthquake.
Wish I had a magical camera. That would really shook it shit.
So you want an earthquake cam?
Turn it upside down. Everything it's looking at falls onto the ceiling. What else? Well, all I gotta say, bro, is they did so much better on this project than you did. I don't know, they had everything you did. They continued the project. It looks really good. I was sitting in here yesterday when they were like going through the presentation. I was like, I'm gonna have to come through the presentation and say nice things. Say how much better y'all did on this than Matt and Hill. You're all up in the way, man.
Sorry.
She's on her way.
All right, guys, welcome to 411. Today we have two groups that are going to showcase their work. The first one is about the virtual tour of Southeastern, as you can see. And Eric is going to go ahead and introduce everyone, and Travis as well. So, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, we're Team Pandem. I'm Travis Dury. I was the team leader. This is Dee, James, Eric, and Silas. Our client was Eric Patton also. He was also our tech lead on this. VOOS is, or Virtual Southeastern, we abbreviate it as VOOS, so much easier to say. The whole point of VOOS is to virtualize the campus so that students will no longer have to come to the campus in order to get in order to go through orientations. To do this, we've employed Torque 3D this semester. Last semester, when they did this, they employed Torque Advanced. Really, the benefits, though, in this really remain in the orientation aspects of it and the promotional aspects of it. We can give Southeastern can give this away in promotional packets and attract more students. These are our milestones. Let's see. We finished up pretty much all of them, actually. All the top ones. The bottom ones, we ended up spending so much time on finishing Fayard that we were unable to get to any of the optional ones.
So move that into 412.
Pretty much.
All right, so there were a lot of changes that were made between the first and the second one. If y'all didn't know, this is actually a continuation of last year's 411 project with Matt Gill and myself, Savannah Brown, Rachel Pearson, and Chase Courtney. And basically what we had done it in before was the older version of this engine, which graphically and processing power-wise just wasn't as good as the one that we're using now. One of the biggest issues with the older engine was its capacity to handle a memory load. It was really, really bad at handling stuff. So we ended up having Fayard's outside done, but we couldn't put any of the innards in the same mission file or it would crash. So we had to end up making it to where you teleport into another mission entirely to even get inside. And even then, we could only have a few rooms done. And I think we were able to furnish one room fully, and then we put in another row of desks and it crashed. Just because of the inefficiency of both the engine and the format that we were using. So the file format that we're using now for models is called Collada. And it's much more efficient than the one we used before. We were able to actually fully furnish all of Fayard in the same map with almost no performance hit. We're using other methods too, but we'll get to that. We also increased the environment size. Before it was only Fayard. Now we have the entire campus in place. We don't have all of the buildings or furnished all the buildings and all that, but we have all the sidewalks, roads, and it's the size that it should be. And then we had to basically redesign Fayard. What we had from the last class was basically the shell, the outside of Fayard. All of the innards we couldn't reuse, so we had to do all of that again from scratch. And then the program that we actually used to design the old Fayard was so terrible. We had so many issues just reporting that into a new program that we're using to model everything and just getting stuff not terrible. I think we had, what was it, like 200,000 faces, if any of you know anything about modeling, which is 200,000 little squares making up the outside of Fayard. We were able to get it down to about 4,000, which just shows how inefficient that program was. But that's the main differences between these two.
Okay, we'll move on to what we did. My tasks mainly involved 3D modeling. As you can see, I've got the little screenshot from some of the models I did, the one I'm actually most proud of is actually the podium model, which are in pretty much, the podiums are in every room, so, and that came out looking pretty good, I believe. Anyway, I also did the projectors, the doors, the fire alarms, and I don't remember the other one I did. Oh, the indoor benches, the big black benches you'll see outside. Beyond that, I furnished some of the doors in the areas, but after I got the idea of how to do it down, I would delegate that off to someone else because I had to get started on other things. Same thing goes for scripting and triggering. The main thing I really wanted was doors that would open whenever you walk up to them, and I accomplished that. And then I delegated it off to someone else so that I could get started on texturing and character select functionality, which, as you'll see in the game, actually does work. You do actually change characters whenever you apply the change. One of the issues we came to with this entire thing was rendering, because the common way to do that is with zones and portals, but due to a little bit of a miscommunication on my end, a little bit of a misunderstanding on the technical side, I ended up looking into alternative ways to do rendering, and then we realized, well, the way we were doing it before was actually the right way to do it, and it still actually ended up working faster. So that kind of led to the next task I was involved in, which was rezoning everything and putting portals in for the doors and rooms and pretty much.
And for those of you that don't know what triggers, zones, and portals are, triggers are just objects in the game. Usually it's just shaped like a cube. And if you enter into that or exit out of that, you can tell it to perform some code. So say you walk up to a door, it'll do the code to open up the door for you. Zones are also cubes, and basically anything that's inside of that cube doesn't get rendered. So it's like it's not even there. But once you get inside of that zone, nothing outside of it renders and everything inside renders. So it's an efficiency thing. And what portals do is you can basically put a window on the side of one of the walls of that zone, and basically the game checks, it does a ray cast from the direction that your character is facing, and once it knows that it's facing that portal, then it'll render everything inside of it. So that way things don't just appear when you walk into it, it'll appear when you look at it. So it gives the illusion that everything's there when it's actually not. So it's really good for performance. Yeah. I did a good bit of the 3D modeling for Fayard, but nobody else aside from me in the group had any modeling experience. So at the beginning I had to teach everybody how to do it, and they all caught on pretty quick actually. So we were able to delegate out a lot of the items in Fayard out to different people. But the main stuff that I modeled was all the floors of Fayard, the stairs, the elevator, redoing the outside. All of us did furnishing areas, just putting stuff in rooms. Triggers and scripting. We did some engine modifications, but most of that stuff hasn't been updated since the last engine. And the file structure is so completely different that even though we got it to compile and work sometimes, there were so many little issues with it that we just didn't continue with it for this semester. We're going to have to rewrite our own stuff in 412. Texturing, I went around and took pictures of stuff to create tileable textures. You know, just make sure that like the bricks are the right size and all that stuff. Just a bunch of little details to make it look better. Oh, we also did bump mapping on several of the things, like the ceilings, the floor tiles, and the bricks. And bump mapping, what it is you can have a flat texture, say of bricks, and say you want it to actually have depth. Instead of actually adding all the extra geometry it would take to make those bricks, you can actually trick the game by using a normal map. And basically what that does is it tells the light to go further into the texture or further out of the texture before it bounces off of it, so you can give it faux depth, basically. So it looks like the light's reflecting off of it as if it were geometry, but it's just a flat surface. As I said before, Fayard building redesign, zoning, and portaling.
Okay, I worked on the website, furnished the lights for the first and the second floor. Worked some movie from the old engine to the new one. Did some 3D models, and I volunteered for the trash can, for that bench that's outside. which are going to be buildings next semester. hopefully.
Yeah.
And this is how the lines look like. This is the
Hey, let's see. When I first joined this project, Travis, he basically pointed me to the torque website and said, here's the tutorials, here's how you learn torque. You got a week to learn it. So pretty much in a week, I learned torque script. And then we
You
started
should also
assigning.
note that they joined the group halfway through the semester.
Right. So they had a lot of
pick up
catching up to do really fast.
So first week we just pretty much caught out and tried to get a feel for the editors and all that. And Travis started assigning tasks, and my main tasks were furnishing the classrooms. Like every time I'd furnish one, like there would be another one to furnish, so I kept getting assigned that. And
Yeah, we
then,
basically told them to go take inventory of a room, make sure what all was in it, and then duplicate it.
Right. Yep. And so I furnished most of like half the second floor. Then we wound up like having to move from one building to another. Like we redid the insides, so all the furniture had to be moved from where we had it to the new one. So I wound up having to redo pretty much all of it. I also did some of the roads and sidewalks. I did all of them on North Campus. See that in that screenshot there. See, I also did some of the zoning for the first floor.
Like Travis said, we joined the group about midway through the semester, and Travis told me that you've got 1 week to learn torque script, and here's the torque documentation, or I'm going to fail you. And so, and he was serious about it too. So I put a lot of work into that. My tasks were mostly I did zoning for just about all the rooms. There's kind of a story behind that with the zoning. Eric explained how the zoning doesn't render things inside of it for efficiency until you're actually inside the zone. And so I did pretty much all the rooms with custom fit zones, and we decided since you couldn't actually see out of the zones to, because when you're in a zone, you couldn't see out of a zone into, say, other hallways.
It's like doors would just disappear.
So
This is before we knew about portals, by the way.
So Travis told me to delete all the zones and replace them with triggers and Travis wrote a script that would procedurally generate all the items in the room one at a time. And that actually worked. You could see things outside of it, and it would only render rooms that you actually walked in. But it was so slow to render them procedurally. You would walk into a room and it would still be loading items one at a time.
Yeah, it was good at small scale, but big scale it was like stupid.
So I did a lot of that with the script, the triggers, most of the doorways on the second floor, actually all the doorways on the second floor, I wrote triggers to play their animations. Roads and sidewalks on South Campus, I did all of those. A few building shells. I only did 2 building shells. I did the Lions Den and the Student Union, which actually kind of made them where you could actually walk under like the paths and stuff. So they look pretty nice. They're not just squares. And
He's very proud of them.
I did all the third floor lighting and the attempted elevator music. That wasn't a task. That was just kind of a joke thing. But I found the code to do it, but it had something to do with the hardware.
It was great elevator music too.
Yeah.
And on to the demo.
So I did blue screen together. Do we have that chair? All right, so here's our main screen, which some of you have seen, but what we ended up doing with it is, really? We ended up, normally what you have with the GUI in this engine is you just have like a picture of something and it'll have other pictures of buttons on it and you do whatever. But we didn't like that. So what we ended up doing was we created a main file specifically for the main menu. and we put a path for a camera to follow. And basically, you spawn into this mission as a camera rather than a player, so you have no control over yourself. But we put functions on there that would make the camera follow paths to different 3D objects, and basically our GUIs are displayed on objects within this mission file. So say we do it to the options menu, it zooms over there to a computer screen. And then we got all our stuff here. Customize, controls, graphics, audio. And then here's something that Travis perfected, our character select.
This was in the old engine, and I ended up rewriting a lot of it to make it work in the new engine.
By the way, we didn't work on any of the models anymore this semester, so it's all the same ones from last semester, or last year. Oh, but yeah, you can go through all of them. This is one of their stock characters we just left in there.
It runs really fast, so it's great.
So, can you have one leg in the game?
You could.
Because there's one-legged students up there.
Only if a modeler feels like modeling it.
Yeah. Our campus is actually not very handy capable. We don't have almost any ramps.
That's jacked up.
We do have the elevator, I mean.
We do have the elevator, but there's no ramps to get inside of our building. So.
It still takes a little while to render everything outside of here, like the roads.
Yeah,
and the
we're
sidewalks.
still trying to figure out how to like cull the roads, because the road's almost like a single chain.
Can I suggest like a splash screen while it loads, and then as it loads each object, it increases a certain.
That's actually a good idea.
Because that's what we did for Black Sunday. We actually had a loading screen.
That's a good idea, actually.
And then all the
Because I think we can
characters
we can tell
force
programmatically when
calls.
it's done rendering, so we should actually be able to do that. It's not a bad idea. We were thinking something elaborate that probably wouldn't have worked, so thank you for that suggestion.
No problem.
We'll show you all the roads and sidewalks later after we show you Fayard and the fake building. But I forgot the position the sun we're supposed to go.
Anyway, as you can see, we've got an actual layer that you can't run through.
And then there's bump mapping for y'all. We don't have it intense on there because the bricks really aren't that deep, but it's a 3D-ish effect to them. We've also got specularity on the windows, so whenever light gets on it, it reflects it. Anyway, let's head inside.
Question. It's the 100 down at the bottom line.
That's how much health you have left in case you fall off the elevator.
It's not academic points, huh?
Nope. And as you can see, the doors do open up whenever. We didn't have working doors in our last project.
It's
So here's the first floor. And there's the lecture hall.
As you can see before you actually enter the room, there it is. You can see into it.
Are you having footprints?
Yeah, we left the footprints on accidentally. Thanks for pointing that out, Matt. Let's go towards the room that we're actually in. We got windows to work on this part at least. And here we are.
This is 126.
I'm where I am right now. You can see into the other rooms. We didn't want to model any of the stuff in here, so we left it opaque. And door plates would have taken about 10 million textures to put all the numbers, so let's let you guess for now.
Take the elevator.
Take the elevator? Okay, take the elevator.
It looked like there wasn't one there first when you walked that door.
Oh, you're trying to punk us.
Well, this is of course the second floor.
You can jump off by me.
That is
We'll
not
do that
how
later.
fast Fayard goes.
Yeah, we wanted to do it more accurately, but for some reason, you can have either an object that has animation or an object that has collision, because we don't have a good physics system. So we can animate something, but you'd just be sitting there and the elevator would pass through you. So we couldn't really do a wait time.
You couldn't like have it pause the character the way it could.
I think that's what we're gonna, yeah. For 412, we're gonna try to get it to where it actually moves, but we were considering stripping control of the character for a few minutes and just making them sit there and playing some noise. We probably would have spent more time with that if we got an elevator music working, because it would have been more fun.
Yeah.
For moving elevator, there's a mod for the same engine called for Tribes 2, which is Tribes 2 construction mod, and they have a.
Which engine is it for, though? Is it for their original Tribes engine or Tribes 2?
Tribes 2.
Okay, that's TGEA. So that would have worked with our older engine. They might have a mod, though. What was it called?
The construction mod.
Construction mod?
Yeah, you get really friendly people over there, so they can probably help you.
Okay.
They're super
Yeah, we were on the forums like 24/7 talking about it. Let's go to a room with projector.
As you can see down the halls, Jimbo furnished all the way down the halls. Next one.
That history in it.
I know, but I want to have fun.
Yeah,
with
that's
this
the
one.
classroom I have to go to next.
As you can see, there are projectors in most of the rooms. Some of the rooms that don't have projectors, we're blaming those on budget cuts at this point because
These budget cuts.
they're hitting so hard. They're hitting in
Here's
virtual
one.
Southeastern even. But
Can you make the
that's
projector work?
215.
You could make the projector work.
Are you going to?
If we have tons of time on our hands, sure.
What's McDowell's office look like? Does it feel
I don't know.
Yeah,
That might be one of the ones we can't go into. Yeah, we can't go into that one.
Yeah.
Do you have the bathrooms on?
Anything we couldn't inventory. No, we didn't do the bathrooms because you're in a game, so you don't have to poop.
Just one more way we make your orientation a little better.
That's right. Oh, and for the third floor, I would show you all the blueprint. There's literally like 100 rooms on the third floor, so we didn't model them. We modeled the hallways, and there's just doors basically that go around in them.
Basically like Dell's office.
Yeah.
So you said something about portals earlier. This is actually a separate map from the outside map?
No. Portals aren't what you would think from normally
just for
being a
rendering.
gamer. Portals are portals like a window would be a portal that you could look through.
Okay,
Huh?
but it's still all one physical map.
Right, exactly.
It'll
And then-
render what you can see through
Yeah,
the portal.
and right now the outside world is considered a zone, so any zones within that have portals you can see from the outside zone if you're looking at the portals.
And if you turn around and look down the hall, you can see, or look down the other hall. Get that one. You can see how there are lights going all the way down that Dee Dee's put up. Jimbo put these in. I guess she did the one on the second floor. I'm scattering now.
These stupid stairs took forever.
Will there still be work left to do next fall?
There's a lot of work left to do.
So next fall, 411 group could be.
All right, basically, Andy, you see that Faird is now done. Now imagine doing every other building on campus.
Go back to the CS lab.
Okay. Is there anything left to be done other than the modeling and art, really?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of programming left to do as well.
Okay.
What kind of programming is, I mean, I assume a lot of this is done with some sort of a layout manager or something like that. What kind of programming do you have to actually do with this?
Basically, any interaction in the game is programming. So anything you see moving, or elevators working, or doors moving, rendering things, that's all code that we had to do.
Did you consider any automation of certain parts of the modeling, you know, standard modeling? Like, I mean, we have these inventory reports that we maintain all the time that say that, you know, a certain object, a certain item, you know, computer or printer or whatever is in a certain room.
That would have been great to know. So that would have been great to know.
Well, yeah, it's something we spend a lot of effort on from the staff and faculty standpoint. Anyway, the question is, did you consider actually, and I guess you didn't, but what do you think about the possibilities of taking reports like that and automatically populating rooms with the equipment that's supposed to be
Yeah, a tool could be written for sure that would allow you to do that. by telling you know, the position of something or the orientation of it, how many items are in a room. Yeah, that could definitely be done. Yeah, it's actually something we probably should work on next semester. Then that wouldn't be too bad to do, actually.
Is there a pool on the roof this time?
There is no pool on the roof this time. Because since we were able to do it last time because there was no inside of Fayard for the shell, at this point the pool would be like way down into the 3rd floor. So we would have had to put one that was stuck above it, and we wanted it to be a covert pool, so we couldn't do that.
Can't go in there anyway.
Oh, CS lab? Okay. Let's head towards the lab.
Since, I mean, most of us really, a lot of us have been in the CS lab, let's just kind of give a quick shot of the CS lab.
We didn't model the couches, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or the Xboxes.
Well, no one uses those anyway.
Anyway, but, no.
You want to show them the outside now? With all the buildings and then
Yeah.
show them the sidewalk and roads? All right, so we have a decent amount of shells in here. Just to kind of give you a feel of the campus, because just having Fayard here by itself wouldn't have given you, a good vision of what is going to actually be here. So, general model of this union over here. I'm very proud of it. So I'm going to go show it off for you.
Were these models based on blueprints, or did y'all actually?
Oh, good question, actually. What we ended up doing, we took the terrain block and we found an aerial map of the campus, and we set that as the texture for it. So we were able to go into a top view and then use that to create all the sidewalks, roads, and building locations and orientations. Yes, Shane?
Why is the sun moving from north to south?
That is an excellent question as well. That is due to my laziness of forgetting to go back and change the angle of the sun.
Okay. I just noticed that.
We actually do have a time of day, but it's unfortunately realistic, so we'd have to wait here for a few hours for the sun to move.
Earlier, now it's below, south of Fayard.
Yeah. And
An idea, time of day thing, have you thought about making it compressed, like maybe 6 real hours would be 1 day in virtual
well,
Southeastern?
what we're actually going to do next semester is we're going to take the time of day of basically it's going to have a function that contacts or figures out what time it is in central and central time zone, and then make the current time in the game that, and then make it a realistic passage of time at that point. So whenever you get on the game, it will automatically know what time it is in Southeastern. So it's more of a realistic.
Is there anywhere we can get that client that you're using right now?
Torque 3D?
Like the virtual Southeastern that you're using right now?
Yeah, we can put it up for you to download. It's pretty massive right now, but we can actually do a deployment. Shane?
Are all the resources going to be freely available for students to look at the code y'all done and stuff
Sure.
like that?
Well, except for the engine.
Oh yeah, we can't put the engine code up because of licensing issues with Torque. But all the scripting y'all can look at.
What about all the resources on it, such as the models?
Yeah.
And things like
Oh,
that?
yeah, those
Sure.
Those are gonna,
I can actually make the SVN public for downloading, and anyone can go in and pull it down.
Because I'm going to take the map of Fayard and throw it in Unreal.
Okay, cool.
Right on.
Scott?
I don't know if it's a limitation of the Torque engine or not, but is there any way to render rounded terrain, slope terrain?
Oh yeah, actually.
Like I noticed
in fact,
the hills.
the reason that we actually took a height map of the whole campus, and it turns out it's almost entirely flat. There's like 2 hills, and they're right in front of Fayard. So there was no point in even loading it in. We can go back. There's actually an editor that you can go and tell the radius of how much of the ground to grab and pull it up or add to it or subtract from it. And you can actually paint the terrain too, so it's actually really customizable. You?
So, are you walking around as a character or just as the camera?
As a character.
Okay,
So if someone else logged in right now, they could see you.
Yeah, if we had this hooked up to a server.
Oh,
It has multiplayer capabilities, we just don't have it hooked up to a server for them to join in. Basically, right now what you have to do is go through like command prompt and run it by telling it that it's going to be the network master, which would be something we just have to add into the code later to let it know. But it has the capabilities of multiplayer right now. I guess we'll show you the top view of all the sidewalks and stuff.
like we got down most, I think.
That would have been a terrible camera.
Alright, but we put in pretty much all the sidewalks, all of the roads. We don't have parking lots yet. I think we might have one or two.
We have like two.
Not all of them.
That's realistic.
Chris?
I have one suggestion. At the very beginning, going to the main menu, where it's the chalkboard.
Yeah.
Could y'all, like, while you hover over the letters, could you highlight them? to make
Say that
sure-
again? Oh, highlight it as you go over it? Yeah, that's easily done, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those suggestions.
Is it hold, right click and drag to make it zero? Oh, we're doing little mouse, which seems to crash it.
Yeah, hold right click, pull out.
Eric, you have a question?
Oh.
I have a question for each of you to answer. In the course of this project, you each probably came across some area or subject that you didn't feel like you knew enough about, and you maybe didn't have time to learn a lot about it during the project itself. What did this project tell you, that you needed to learn, and how do you think you might go about learning that new piece of information or that new skill or whatever in the future?
Well, the main thing I learned, really?
No, I want to know what you didn't learn, what you discovered that you needed to learn later, and what do you think you would do to gain that knowledge?
Okay. The one thing I found I wanted to learn then is really how physics engines work. Because a whole lot of the stuff I wanted to do with collidable objects that have animations, I couldn't do. And I'd made an attempt at it, but I'm not familiar enough with all of the math skills needed to implement a physics system. So I actually ordered a book, a primer for all of that, to learn how to do it. So we'll have that in the next game engine.
For me, it was, like, I want to learn to do the modeling a lot better. Like, the only model I tried, I failed pretty miserably at. But Eric actually taught us all how to use Blender, so I'm going to be trying to get better at modeling over the break.
Let's see, I really
reduce in small increments.
Really, the thing I want to learn for the future is just kind of more about how torque works. There are little nuances like the portals that I just didn't understand at first how those actually work. So there were several other things in there like trying
We're
to
just going to
separate
use the
maybe
crappy
multi-tone
camera
a little bit.
for
So
this.
the only thing I can think to do about that though is just continue to play with it until it starts playing, like working how I like it.
One of the things for me that I had trouble with at first was the torque script. They provide you a tutorial and a little bit of documentation on the website, but to actually get the full thing, you have to have a developer's license. I think it costs about $100. Plus, they also sell books and stuff. And so, for me, anytime I'd have a question, they had the public forums available, and you could search for certain questions. And a lot of people were asking the same questions that I had, but they were all in the private forum, which you have to pay for the license to actually be able to view. And so, I mean, maybe if we had resources like those books available, that's because they didn't have a whole lot of examples. They had pretty much just your simple torque script functions and that sort of thing. And then they had like a RTS game prototype in the tutorials, but that's pretty much all you had to work with. It didn't give you a lot of like actually using the camera. Yeah, it didn't go in depth to it. It was just like basics. But
Well, I don't know anything about Blender before I started working on the project, and now I feel pretty confident about Blender, and I still want to learn a lot about Fork because I enjoy working on it.
What do you think you might do to learn more about Torque?
Books, play around with it.
Okay, thank you.
There's actually a massive torque community with some pretty good stuff on forums that we use for a lot of stuff, and she can use that as well to learn more about it.
If you buy the full license, once you get like special forms on that?
Yeah, there's actually private forms whenever you've actually purchased the engine. Most of the posts on there have to do with engine code rather than scripting though. If you'll notice from the air, stuff disappears a lot. It's some weird issue. It doesn't matter whenever you're down on the ground. It's only with this weird camera.
I believe it's because of the mesh roads, and they're actually a little bit into the terrain.
Okay.
They're still coming out of it,
same.
but when you get in the camera mode, like not the top view like that, it starts to flicker.
Gotcha. Matt?
Like an elevator buffer, like water.
Yeah, the Z buffer or whatever. Yeah. Anybody else?
Eric, you mentioned that you're gonna include the trees. I don't see any trees.
Yeah, it took so much time getting all this other stuff in that we didn't feel that it was worthy of our time to inventory the trees at this point.
Maybe for 412. Huh?
No, for 412, sure, we'll have it in. But really, this was this phase of it was what was going to take the longest. Just getting all the foundations set in, all the sidewalks, all the roads, get all the favored stuff set in. After this, we'll have way more time to get in cooler stuff in 412.
You have like one or two more questions, and then we have to stop. Any other questions or comments?
Well, thank you for listening to our event. Oh, and please, if there's any of the pizza left, please do enjoy it. I don't want to take it home.